Well, Brian, your maiden voyage and project, M&M, the Mercury Makeover Marquis, man. What do you think of this thing?
Rides like a kitten, but I gotta ask, why are we speeding up and slowing down all the time?
Good question, man. That's why I got you in the car. I'm messing with the brake switch, nothing. I can hit the buttons. I thought it may be sticking, hanging up, beating the steering wheel. I have no cruise control. What good is it to have a cruiser with no cruise control?
You got to have cruise control. Tell you what, let's get it back to the garage. We'll diagnose and repair, show you how to do this today on Tech Garage.
I'm on it. Welcome to Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com. Now, if you watched any show last season, this car is going to look familiar. You might remember Project M&M, the Mercury Makeover, the Mercury Marquis. I'll tell you what, Brian, I've been driving this thing. I fell in love with it. I love this car. It's a cruiser. Problem? No cruise. Got no cruise control. Can't live with that.
Yeah, well, that's just not acceptable, because I'll tell you what, even you look pretty cool in this car, and we've got to get the cruise control working because we got lunch runs to make.
I'm glad you think so, because I'll tell you what, my daughter won't even ride in it to school. She thinks it's not cool, but it is. I love it. It's a cop car. It's a taxi cab. It's got 50,000 miles. This one's staying in the Gardner collection forever.
It'll absolutely run forever. You get 300,000 miles out of this. But cruise control has been a problem on this particular platform. There's been recalls. There's been TSBs. Sometimes they plunge forward and accelerate when you don't mean to, which you could use with your driving style, but we got to fix it.
I'll tell you what, this one's drive-by-wire. It's a little complex and a little complicated, but we're going to simplify it. For these guys, it's going to be easy, but I'm going to need you to go inside because we're going to run some diagnostic tests.
Got it.
Awesome. Take a look at the graphic right here. We're actually going through a couple of these. The schematics right here, and it's a little intimidating because there's a lot there, but we really don't need it. You can actually get the pin location and the ohms of resistance, and I have them right over here with me, sitting down here. Now what we're looking at the cruise control situation is drive-by-wire. So I went ahead and disconnected the battery. That was the first thing to do. And then if you pull up the first graphic actually shows you the ECM pin locations. That makes it pretty easy. And you can see right there, it's highlighted. Pin 19 is the cruise control reference voltage, and pin 30 is the cruise control signal return. So on the ECM here, I'm just going to disconnect that. And when I pull that wire harness out, and it tells me right up there, it's connector C175. I know it all sounds complex, but relax, it's pretty easy. I just count the terminals over according to this pin right here. So I can see the top one's located right up here. And then what I want to do is I want to be careful. There's a term out there called CPA, and it's not Certified Public Accountant. It's Connector Position Assurance. We want to make sure we don't mess up these pins. So what I'm doing is I'm actually putting these little pins on here so I can get in there and not do any damage. So when I plug in it, it's still going to work. So I'm going to go in the pin on the top after I count them over, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over to that side, and then I count over on the bottom one. And I get it in those. Now what did that do? Well, it gave me the ohms of resistance. So right here I switch over to ohms of resistance, and we have the value. Now all you really have to do is switch over to the other chart. You can find this. You can find this on the internet or a reputable source. If you can get it from Ford, great, because this is going to show us everything that's going on with the buttons. And I got Brian inside, and right now it says no switch pressed. That's important because the ohms of resistance on the chart, take a look, it's 3,900 to 4,600 ohms of resistance. So if I look at that right now, we got 4.3, 4,300 ohms. We're in good shape. Brian, what I need you to do is go ahead and shout out. Let's go through the switch positions and see if they're all working.
All right, very good. Starting with resume.
All right, so he's on resume. Go back to the chart, look at the resume. Resume on the chart showing 1,000 to about 1,100. We're showing 1,114. We're right on the money. Next one, Brian.
Moving to accelerate.
All right, so on Excel, back to the chart once again, pretty simple. 552 to 648, we're showing 607, which is right on specs, Brian. Uh-oh.
Great. Decelerate, coast.
Decelerate, which is coast. I'm looking at coast on our chart once again, is 276 to 324. We're showing 303. Brian, we're right in the money, man. It may not be a switch.
Moving to off.
Off position, it's showing on our chart less than 5 ohms. Oh boy, we got 1.3. Brian, it may not be a switch, brother. You got any more positions on there?
Yeah, let me hit on.
Hit on.
There it is.
All right, go ahead, hit on.
It's on.
You're pushing on?
I'm pushing on.
Uh-oh. So our on showing we're supposed to be 1,900 to 2,200, and we're sticking to that 4,300, which is no position push.
There's
So
the
we got
problem.
an on switch problem right there.
Yep, sure do.
Absolutely. Now with this one, it's a little complex, but hey, these tests can walk you right through it. All that Brian has to do now is go in there and take it apart. I'll get a demo set up over here. Brian, you're on your own, buddy. It needs an on switch. I'll get it from the rockauto.com storeroom.
Very good. All right, thank you. Okay, so if you've ever played the game Operation, you remember trying to get those little tweezers down in there without hitting the wall? Very similar. This is a high-tech operation here. You need an Allen wrench with the long leg going in. There's 4 access holes on the back of this wheel with spring clips. You got to feel it, push it. There's one. I've got the driver's side, left side one's out. Let me push, and there you go. Comes off gently. Now, really important before you do this, make sure the battery, negative cable of the battery is disconnected. We let this discharge for well over 20 minutes now. You really need 10 to let that capacitor drain so you take out all risk of an airbag deployment that you don't want to deal with. Here's the center module. There's the spring clips we had to release. There's the 4 holes. Here's your airbag connectors. Squeeze, gently come up. Take care of these, you don't want to break them. Squeeze, gently come up and out. When you store the airbag module, one more connector here, get it off. Take this airbag module face down so the airbag would explode up if there were to be an accident, down on the passenger side floor, and you're good to go. 2 torque screws. I'm going to get these switches out, but stay with us on Tech Garage, brought to you by rockauto.com.
Tech Garage, presented by rockauto.com, is brought to you by Quick Covers Corrosion Solutions. There's a new truck in your future, and you already own it. Quentin Brothers Auto and Performance, everything from minivans to drag cars. And by rockauto.com, all the parts your car will ever need.
Welcome back to Tech Garage, presented by rockauto.com. Well, we're right in the midst of the cruise control problem with Project M&M, but I want to take a look at a couple of cruise control systems, and we can start way back here in the evolution. Actually, Brian will probably remember this one most. This is an actual transducer. What this does, it actually took the cable in from the speedometer, and it would go out and it would feed and wind the cable right there. And if I flip it over to the back, you can see we were dealing with about 2 connections. Pretty simple, just Diagnostics power in, off, and this guy had to wind it up. You had a problem, well, you basically just pushed the pedal yourself. You didn't mess with it. Go over to the next system here. This is actually vacuum actuated. We got a little better because we hooked it up to this vacuum diaphragm, which goes in and out right here. And then what we did is on this side, we either applied or reduced vacuum according to the command here from the module. We got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 connectors here, so we get it a little more sophisticated, but yet you're probably cruising along, all of a sudden your cruise starts dropping and dropping and dropping. You may have a hole in the diaphragm, or you may have a vacuum issue actually coming over from the motor. That would affect that as well. So what do? We stepped up our game. Electronics. We went over here to the electronic cruise control module. Lost all that cool stuff, but still have a cable going over here that's going to drive the actual throttle. It just winds in and out with the computer command control, pretty bulletproof right here. Use a transducer brake switch right here for on and off, so we can go make sure that we're kicking it on and off with the brake pedal. Now, where are we at today with Project M&M? Right here, drive-by-wire, okay? Seems complex, easy to diagnose, nothing to it. The only thing is, we got a computer in the mix. So what we're looking at is the throttle position right here has an accelerator pedal position sensor. We're kicking that down where we want it. We hit the on switch. What does it do? It tells the computer that's where you want it. Well, the computer simply just comes over here, winds the motor, turns the throttle plate, bam, right there. Wherever you want to put the throttle plate. You want to accel? More throttle plate. You want to decel? Less throttle plate. Other than that, computer's controlling it all. Well, Brian's hard at work. I'm going to have to cruise over and give him a hand.
So very simple. The on-off switch is clearly the culprit. Very simple to remove it. Just 1 screw, number 4 Torx. Set that out of the way. Now, you got to work this switch. It's just a friction fit. So I'm going to give it a little bit of encouragement with a screwdriver. Here, pull on the top with my left hand, work it. I can feel it coming. There's going to be a connector here on the back. There's the switch. The beautiful thing is, you remember we tested both switches, the path of resistance? You can replace just one of these if you need to. We know the other side was fine due to the validation on the testing. Here's our new one from Rock Auto. Looks identical. Same exact connector. Everything's right. I'm going to reseat this till I hear the click. There you go. Friction fit it, get the tab right down in. Friction fit right down in there. And I'll tell you what, John might actually be able to handle this thing now. Hey John, let's retest this switch and make sure we're good.
Yeah, and that's the important thing, Brian. I mean, we showed the readings before with no switch pushed, and we still have the readings on the meter as 4,323 ohms of resistance. And actually our specs on our graphic, we can go back to that graphic now, and you're looking at it, we're right where we're supposed to be. But remember before we pushed this on switch and it didn't change? Hopefully when you do it this time, Brian, we should be in about 1,900 ohms to 2,200 ohms. Give it a shot.
There it is, it's on.
Look at that. All right, let it go. All right, hit it again.
On.
And now let's just go ahead. What's the other side of the on switch? Is that off?
Off is here.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and verify that just so
you
you
go.
know the whole switch. There, that switch is working in both positions, man. We got cruise control.
Perfect. I'll get this thing buttoned back up. Notice that the airbag connectors are the way they came off, oriented that way. I'm going to make sure we're safe here. We still have the battery disconnected, and I'm going to be done.
Yeah, once we do that, we'll go ahead and reconnect the battery, take it on a test drive. I'm going to have cruise control, man. Project M&M is going to be rolling again, no problem. You know, you notice the actual wires. We took good care of it, that we didn't mess it up. Well, today on Garage Ed, we're going to do the wire repairs. You don't want to miss that. Stick around. There's plenty more Tech Garage presented by rockauto.com right after this message. Welcome back to Tech Garage, presented by rockauto.com, and welcome to Garage Ed. You know, we dedicated an entire segment on everything that has to do with electricity and electrical. And why not? Cars are riddled with electronic components from the front to the rear. We talked about voltage, amps, ohms, resistance. We talked about lighting, relays. We talked about everything that has to do with electricity. But you know, it's only as good as the wiring itself, and Rock Auto shipped us everything we need to do the job right and do it right the first time. You can see it right here on the table. We got some wire loom right here. Secure your wires down with these ties. The wire in itself, you actually have a soldering iron so we can do the wire job correctly. One of the coolest tools right here, this is going to hold the wire so we can actually solder it together, and we have all the other tools that we're going to use. Tom, I'm going to need your help, man. You're going to join me on this wiring section. I mean, wiring, it's important on a car.
Yeah, it's fun to use this tool. I'm really excited.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and we're going to solder up a joint, but take a look at this graphic. Tom, you go ahead and start stripping that wire. This is pretty cool because there's a couple of different types of wire types. There's the pigtail, there's actually the T-type, and then there's the Western Union to do these things right. We're just going to take a butt connector and put it together and solder one to show you. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing it the old school way. You're stripping that one over there. I'm going to use this new tool here from rockauto.com, and I'm going to probably make you look pretty bad there in 2 seconds. That's the cool thing. This thing right here, this is a wire stripper. So what I did, I put it in there, I stripped it back. Now what I'm doing while you're fussing with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to knock out one of these butt connectors right here. And why do I want to do that? Because we're going to make a total solder joint, a little bit different. Maybe, you know, butt connectors are fine, and some of the other wires repairs are fine as well. But this is going to be cool because we're going to take this right here, Tom, and what we're going to do, if you take your wire and your cool tool right there and put it in there, get that in, and then what I'll do is I'll put the butt connector in, and then we're going to put the other end in right here, and then what we can do is we can actually solder this joint, and that's cool because look, it's holding it. So you grab some rosin core solder, and I'll fire up the torch once we get that thing lit. Now, Tom, the solder is actually going to wick to the flame, which is really neat. So if I just come under here and get this hot, you'll see it'll eat that solder here in a heartbeat. Just leave a little pressure. There it goes. It's going to fill that completely up. Now, why are we doing this? Well, we talked about resistance in one of the prior episodes. We don't want any resistance. Come on over this side and just fill her up a little bit. There you go. That'll work. Let me see if I do this without burning you. Beautiful. Now, that's a nice joint right there. Now I can come over here and just kind of cool it for us, just for time's sake, and get it out of there. What do you got for us, Tom?
Got some shrink wrap to make sure it's properly insulated.
And that's huge when we're talking about all this resistance and corrosion and everything going on. So we slip that over the wire like so.
It even matches the
Come back.
color.
Yeah, it matches the color. We didn't have to do that, but we sure did. That's pretty cool. Let me see if I can fire this thing back up and show you how that shrink wrap actually works. So if I just come over and I heat this, man, that's really cool. So look at what we're doing. We're taking away any water, any corrosion right there. And the coolest part about that is, let me put this down here. All right, if you give that joker a tug, oh, don't be afraid of it. That's a soldered joint. That's not coming apart, and you have no resistance.
Right, yeah, better than new.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we use a lot of tools here, let's go check them out on your website.
Sure, I'll show you where to find them.
Tom, we got a good wire connection, but that doesn't happen by hapstance, man. Show us on your website some of the stuff that deals with wire repairs.
Well, the tools we were just using are under the Tools and Universal Parts tab. Every category, cooling, brakes, we have a tool section, and there's fun tools like that you may not know exist. I see ground straps here. That's something we should mention is grounding is so important, especially on newer cars. You get a little corrosion, rust, and the ground goes bad. Your computers could be not working. Just all sorts of gremlins may show up.
Big time, yeah. I mean, voltage drops on a ground side. I think people misconstrue that all the time. I mean, it's just as important as the positive side. We start losing voltage there. Components are starving for voltage. They're starving for voltage. They're wearing out. So, I mean, you got ground straps as well?
Yeah, we have ground straps. We sent out a newsletter twice a month where we cover topics like this, and that's something we explored in detail was grounding. Is it okay to run another ground wire, or you want to run too thin a gauge ground wire and bypass things, and that wire will burn up, and you might create more gremlins. So,
can you pull up one of those newsletters?
Sure.
So you're talking about right here, I mean, everything's on there, OE ground cables, and you just highlighted an awesome part. Why don't you read that for us? I mean, that's huge.
Right. Yeah. You want to keep the component grounded in the section of the engine compartment where it was originally grounded.
Yeah, and I love this. Good wiring practices. I mean, the wire's got to be, the right size. It can't be too long. It can't run through a heat source. I mean, all that, we deal with that every day in rockauto.com. I mean, it's right here. We deal with it here at Tech Garage. Well, we're going to take a short break, but stick around. We'll be back with the video question of the week as soon as we return with more Tech Garage presented by rockauto.com.
Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com, is brought to you by Orla, the world's most winning exhaust. Mobile Environmental Solutions, the leading portable mobile paint booth. And by RockAuto.com, all the parts your car will ever need.
Welcome back to Tech Garage, presented by rockauto.com. Well, it's time for the video question of the week.
We've got a fan who has a clunk in the drivetrain. That could be so many things. Let's take a look.
Hey, Tech Garage guys, check this out. Every time I shift, I have a clunk in my drivetrain. Can you tell me what's going on?
Liam, there are so many things that it could be that cause a clunk in the drivetrain. Is it happening when you put it in gear, put it in park, accelerate, decelerate? Could be U-joints, but a couple of the common failures are motor mounts and transmission mounts. So I think we can do this on the Firebird and show them how it works.
They're pretty easy. Let's go ahead. We'll just take the bracket down. We'll drop the bracket down and go from there. Shouldn't be that big of a deal. We've got this supported. Got it supported here with a transmission jack, which is phenomenal.
I think it's different.
Here comes the bracket. You grab
All right, got it. Yep.
Nice catch, man.
There you go.
A heck of a team here.
Very similar on all vehicles here.
Yeah, look at the mount right there. Nothing to it.
There's the new mount. Yep, we got two right there.
Yep. All right. Nothing to it. Now, when you get yours out, watch that mount's going to drop. I actually got one right here so you can see. That's cracked. The mount here is cracked right there. Just pulling and tugging. This is pretty cool. I don't know if it's going to happen. There may be. But some of these are fluid-filled mounts. Yeah, there it goes. Starts to ooze out of there. This is an actual fluid-filled mount. So what happens is that bladder starts to rupture. Man, you're going to feel that. That's going to cause a clunk every single time, Liam. That's a problem.
That is a tremendous bushing in there to absorb a lot of energy. Lateral forces, vertical forces, it'll do it all.
All right.
Very simple replacement. Right back up in.
So what are we doing? Putting this guy back in?
Yep.
Awesome. I get mine started. You get yours started by hand. There we go.
Getting there.
Right. Now check your drive shaft. Once again, just like suspension, pull, tug up and down. When you're pulling up and down, look at your U-joints. in and out of gear. You can feel it to the left or right. You can feel if it's clunking anything right there. Drivetrain, motor mount, shifting in and out of park, neutral. Watch the motors jumping up and down. That very well could be a problem. All right.
Okay.
Either way, ready for the bracket?
Yep. Get this. This goes on this way.
Cool.
Right there, tab, you got
Hold that
it.
up.
Coming back up and over,
Man,
just like downtown.
it's like a NASCAR race team here.
Well, this can be such a game changer. U-joints are also common, a little more complex to change them. Real specific procedures there you want to follow, but you can do this.
Yeah, there's nothing to it. Just a matter of taking your time, getting it up there. Like I said, support it. You start dropping the back of the transmission down. You don't know what's in the front of the motor. Could cause some problems, could cause it to hang up. You never know, so you want to make sure you do it right. All right, I got this socket here. Here, let me use that.
Okay, there you go. You got it.
Two more. Hey, let's talk a little bit about Project M&M.
Yeah, I tell you what, everybody loves to cruise, especially John, usually at low speed. But when he was crying about no cruise control, I knew we had to give this thing some attention. It wasn't a terribly hard job to do.
Nothing to it whatsoever.
No, I tell you, just access to that steering wheel. Be careful with the ABS, the airbag.
And I love it. I'm cruising now. The Cruiser is now a cruiser. Speaking of cruising, we got a cruise for today. We're out of time, but we'll be back next week. Make sure you check us out on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all that cool stuff, man. We love hearing from you. See you next week right here from the Tech Garage Studios, presented by RockAuto.com.
Production assistance for Tech Garage is provided by Chipola College, located in Marianna, Florida. Founded in 1947, Chipola was ranked recently as one of the top 3 community colleges in the United States.